going on? My name is DJ EFN. I'm a Gemini, 46 years old, Cuban American, live in Miami, Florida. I got 2 kids, and that's my story.
Yo, what up? I'm Manny Digital, 41 years old, father of 3, husband of 1. I like taking long walks off of short piers. From the Bronx, New York, I'm a fatherhoods representative.
Oh, this is how we're doing it. Okay. I'm KGB. I have 1 child. I'm nomadic by nature, and that's all you need to know.
All right, since we're doing the eHarmony intros, I am Derek Lane, a father of 4, a husband, and I am an author.
So swipe left.
Swipe left. They're gonna keep it moving.
I don't know which way it's supposed to go. I haven't done it in a long time.
The one that's probably gonna be like, this is too much baggage.
Yo, so Derek, man, thanks for joining us, man. Appreciate you. Are you frozen? Or you just smiled at really good for a long time?
I think he might be frozen. Yeah, that's amazing.
Or are you just showcasing your smile for the intro?
Yeah, this is good. Come back to us, Derek. Come back.
Come back to the light.
I was looking at you like, why
you should screenshot this
right.
and be the picture we use.
Oh, wait, we could. Let's.
Oh man.
There we go.
There we go. There we go. That shit was hilarious.
Now you muted, yo.
Yeah.
There you go.
There we go.
Right, there we go.
I thought you were striking a pose for your intro.
Nah, I definitely wasn't that.
Oh man. Well, thanks for joining us, man. Appreciate you. Before we get into everything else, I want to talk about your project just so we can talk about that right off rip. Like talk about the book. With the first thing was a track too, right?
Actually, the book came first, but I was like, let's do something different with the book and have a theme song to the book. So that's what came after.
Okay.
So talk about it.
Yeah, talk about it.
You can't just say book and track.
Inspiration. Yeah, like let's name it. Where can people get it?
Yeah.
But what's the inspiration behind it?
Okay, so the book's titled AJ from Outer Space Town, and it's based on my 4-year-old son. He was 3 at the time when we came up with the concept. And it was just a day that we were kicking it around on the microphone. I podcast, I do social media content on the side. So my son always wanted to get on the microphone with me. He was always like, Daddy, can I say something? Can I say something? So we decided to do something like the Bill Cosby Kids Say the Darnest Thing. I threw AJ on the microphone. I asked him what his name was, and he was like, I'm AJ, and I'm from Outer Space Town. I'm like, wait a minute, that sounds like something right there. We might need to do a project. It might be a book. Summer was coming up, and I wanted to teach my sons something different. I have 3 boys and a daughter who's 9 months old now. But I was like, thank you guys. So I wanted to do something different, opposed to just doing the summer camp this year. Things were still a little funny with COVID. So I was like, this summer, I want to teach them about building a project. I never wrote a book before. I wanted to show them, like, this is how you complete a project from start to finish. We set up a hard deadline for July 29th, which was my birthday. So I wanted them to show, this is how we're going to get and find the artist for the book. This is how we're going to come up with the concept of everything. And I most importantly wanted them to see what happens when a project hits a snag or an obstacle. How do we get through it and how do we work through it? And that was the biggest takeaway. And that's what the project was for us.
So
that's a really dope idea.
Yeah, super dope. How honed in were they on the process? Like, did you keep their attention on it? Were they into it the whole way through?
The whole way through, they were into it. They named the characters. They were the ones who helped pick the artist who was going to be the one to do the design for the book. And when it came time for the song, I make music, or I used to make music back in the day. So I was like, let me, do something fun and have a track, and they could pick the beats, and we could talk about whether or not we're going to use this track or not. So it was kind of like a America's Got Talent, but my kids were judging it, whether or not we would move forward or not.
Dope.
Did you have a strict schedule? Like each day, did you have carved out time where everyone was sitting down and making it happen, or was it kind of free flowing? How did you set that up with them?
It was free flowing because everything happened so quick with the project. Writing the book, really, it took 30 minutes. We sat down, we were like, what do we want to name the characters? We had a chalkboard, and every time they signed off on something, we were like, cool. Then we wrote the story, And before we knew it, we had the project done. So everything from that point, outside of the creative standpoint, was up in the air because we had to get the distributors, we had to, get the artist, we had to now meet the timeline with things that were outside of our control. So whenever something came up that we could do, I grabbed them and I was like, hey guys, come on, we're doing something right now, because as you guys all know, things never go as scheduled. So we have to sometimes be flexible. And that's what happened along the way with the project.
And how old are your sons?
Yeah.
I have 2 9-year-olds and AJ, who's now 4.
Okay.
Yep.
Crazy.
Hold up, time out. So you got a pair of twins? Is that
Yes.
okay? Because I mean, you could have an adopted son or something else, right? So
Right.
you got a pair of twins, and then you and your lady said, "Yo, fuck that. We're gonna have 2 more."
Yeah.
That was how it went down.
Manny's really into that. He's like, yeah, more.
More. Yeah. Well, we always wanted a girl. And if we would have had a girl from the beginning, we probably would have been done. But
Wow.
we just kept rolling the dice. Boy popped up. So we finally got the girl on the end when we were like, you know what? This is our last shot. Because actually, when we found out that she was pregnant with AJ, when it came time for the ultrasound, we actually cried when we saw a little penis hanging out. We're like, oh man, come on. Gotta do this one more time.
That happened to my boy Rich. Same thing. He was trying to go for the girl. He ended up having twins and all that, and ended up with his 5th was his girl.
Wow.
Yeah.
So going back to the process of writing the book, you mentioned like you wanted them to learn how to overcome obstacles.
Yep.
What were some? I'm sure you had a couple that came up. Like what were they, and how did your kids react to handling them?
The biggest thing, or the hardest part, was selecting an artist. Because as we always try to teach our kids to be nice and, do unto others that we want to do to us, we actually had to go through a process where every artist, when they heard about the idea, they wanted to jump on board. But they had to actually go through a firing process. They didn't really handle it. They were the ones who said no, but the people who were really engaging, and they were happy when they got to see AJ, because he had to have a specific look. So they got to see pictures of AJ. They got to engage with him so it can come out the way that we needed it to do. So they had this relationship with these artists, and they were like, well, no, it's not going to be this guy. No, this is not going to be this girl. So we're going to have to essentially turn them down. So that was the hardest thing, learning to tell people no.
And so you gave them a picture, and then you had them draft according to what you guys wanted to see.
Exactly. Yes.
Okay. It's interesting.
That's a dope lesson.
That is dope.
My friend, we've talked about it on this pod a few times, just like from the financial standpoint, and like the things that we want to try to encourage our kids or support our kids with, so that we can set them up better than we were set up, as we were coming up. And we were having a conversation in a group chat that I'm a part of today, just around something similar, which is like, what are those foundational building blocks that we want to give our kids in order for them to, like, from a financial standpoint, like, be in a better spot? And the conversation around university came up, right? Like, we were all chatting our opinions, and it was like, yo, I'm not giving my kids nothing unless they get a degree, or like, hard rules that parents have around of how to support their kids. And I'm curious, like, just your mindset seems very different than a lot of people that I know personally in their approach to parenting. How do you look at that? Because my guess is you're likely really interested in your kids having a much better, jumping off point than you did.
Mm-hmm.
How are you looking at it from a financial standpoint? Are you one of those people that's going to be like, yo, I'm gonna give you everything, or you have some other ideas on how to prop them up?
I believe that there's no set standard or how to approach it. It's 2-part. If they find something that they believe in, then yeah, we're going to go for it. I'm going to get behind them, because I didn't always have those opportunities growing up to have, full support and a financial backing to be able to support them on their dreams. So if they woke up to me one day and they said they wanted to be a Power Ranger, let's just sit back and think about how we could accomplish you being a Power Ranger without me shooting down their dreams, because I want them to be able to accomplish or believe in everything that they set out to do. Whether or not it might not be feasible in that moment, I want them to come to that conclusion. I don't want to be the one to decide that for them.
So it's like a series of exercises that you're doing with them, so they can kind of like develop the mentality of, okay, this is how I would go about getting from point A to point B.
Correct.
And so for the book, so once you selected the artist, and how difficult was finding distribution? I mean, did you self-publish? How did that whole shopping process, and what was their kind of interaction with that process?
Okay, so being from Miami, a go-getter from the set, I knew somebody who wrote a book prior to me, so I reached out to him. What was his process? And he self-published, but he used what was a consultant to help him throughout the process. And she was like, "These are her fees. Reach out to her, and she's going to help you through it." So when I talked to her, she was telling me all that what she did, but it was nowhere near that the idea that I had for the book. But along the way, in her consultation, she told me the whole process. I'm like, "Oh shit, I could do this myself." And that's how I got the whole thing going. I did it, I did it self-published.
And so what was once you have it published, are there physical copies or is it an ebook? Or
There
both?
are physical copies and there is an
Yeah, no,
ebook.
I have a copy myself.
Okay. So let's say when the kids get the final physical copy, what was that feeling like for them? Could you tell that they were super proud about it? What was that feedback?
There was so much excitement surrounding it because first the book, when it was released, is self-published. We just did this on a whim. The book, before they even got their physical copies, there was sales that were happening, just leading up to it. And the book, when they got a hold of it, it was number 11 on Amazon. So that was already a sense of pride that they created a project that beat out all of these other children's books, that they had something to do. School was a week away from starting for them because we were going to school in Palm Beach. So school is a week away for starting up for them. And first day of going through with God, the word slipping my mind right now, but show and tell. The first time for show and tell. Kids are talking about their summer. Some kids went to Disney World. Some kids had a new toy that they wanted to show off. AJ, for him, which was really big, this was his first time in VPK, and he's going to school showing them his book that he created over the summer. And all the other kids in the class were like, "We want a copy. We want a copy."
That's nice.
So what kind of icebreaker is
He's
that?
signing the books.
He's
like, "Yo, here's the link. Go order yours."
Yeah. So he's pulling up to his first, impression of what school is, and he's a part of a book. He has his own book built off him. What kind of icebreaker is that for him? So it's done wonders for him.
Has that created like a hunger, maybe, or more passion around creating more stuff?
Yes, yeah, he definitely has that drive. And my other older two boys, they all are creatives. So they always want to sit down and come up with the next project. They're all ready for the next thing because they saw that it can be successful. They saw it through. So now they're like, okay, they have the bug. Let's just go through this again. When are we on the next one? When are we going to make it happen? So they're always talking about it. Actually, right now, the next project for them is to do the audible version of AJ from Outer Space Town. I'm going to let the two 9-year-olds sit back and narrate the book. We're going to alternate back and forth. And then that's going to be the next thing that they see through.
And then you got to do the animated.
The animated series is coming up. The short films are coming up. It's going to be a big movement. What AJ from Outer Space Town is definitely.
This reminds me of what Luda, alluded to.
Right.
What he talked about with his kid and the inspiration behind what he was doing. Like that's dope. It's real dope.
That's a great idea for a summer project, man.
Hell
Just yeah.
It's a great idea for all year.
But just in general, yeah. But I mean, to pin it like kind of pointedly as like, hey, instead of going, doing X, Y, and Z for summer, let's do this as a family. That's different, man.
Yes, definitely. And when we talk about legacy passing on to our children, this is something that they know that they had a part in. So when this brand continues to grow and reach the levels that we know it's going to be, they have ownership in this. Like they're coming out the gates, entrepreneurs, they're coming out the gates successful in their own rights. That's just going to do numbers for them.
Yeah, those small wins go a long way, and it's building their character, and it just, I'm sure that doing stuff that young and accomplishing those type of goals so young are so beneficial that, I wish when I was a little kid that my parents were doing that with me.
I think about it like from just a mindset standpoint, right? Because how old is AJ?
AJ's 4 now.
Oh, he's 4. Okay. So then you have a pair of 9-year-olds. So just thinking about their whole experience in this world has changed dramatically than what most kids go through, right? And so the level of confidence they're coming out of the gate with at this age because of this accomplishment, it will set them on a very different course than a lot of people, because now there's a certain element, a pretty big one, that is removed from their need to experience, right? As far as like not guilt, but like doubt. A lot of the self-doubt that we accumulate over time this is a really important milestone for them to look back to and say, yo, shit, like, how could I doubt myself creating X or Y when I was 4, 9, whatever it was, like, I had a hand in making this thing.
That's
right?
also the manifestation of an idea. I mean,
right.
You're showing them how you have an idea and then you can actually create a tangible finished product from it.
But I think what Manny's saying is so real, because when you reach those points in your life of doubt, you fall back on the things that you were actually accomplished. And you know, if you build like basically a catalog of these things that you've accomplished, it's, you know, it just builds you up to have that confidence a lot more than the next person does.
Yeah, it's true.
Yeah.
You know, the experiences.
Yeah. And it's like you're saying, there has to be a next logical step for this. We can't just have this book right now, because if it's just this book and they have this one success to fall back on, you know, that might not help them when it comes time for college or SATs and something, they hit a block that they're not used to, that they haven't worked through before. So there has to be a logical step as we're talking about the progression of AJ from Outer Space Town and what's next. And we're talking about getting it on a network, and we're talking about an animated series. They have to see and work through those much harder processes, which are going to be more monumental than what this process was for the book. So they need to continue to have those wins, and they also need to continue to have those setbacks along the way as we build up this process.
What do you do at a point if, because that's, you know, you have all this vision for what you're doing with the project and how it's going to evolve. What happens if AJ decides, I'm not interested anymore?
Yeah, well, that's the beauty of it. AJ has whatever he has from it. He has his experience from it. This is not something where I'm Joe Jackson and trying to turn him into Michael from
right.
He could go on and do whatever he wants to do. That's what it's all about. That's what the book is all about. That's what the theme song is about. You can go on and be whatever you want to be. There is no limits. Continue to go on your path and what you dream and what you believe. And what he has now, it's transferable. Whatever he decides to do, if he wants to be a UFC fighter, he knows that all he has to do is apply the same principles that we applied during this project, and he can make it happen.
I imagine you're at like Nickelodeon all of a sudden about to sign. He's like, I don't want to do this anymore. I want to be a UFC fighter now. You'd be like, okay, let's walk out of here.
Yeah,
any other kids? Y'all want to do anything with Nickelodeon?
real randomly, and I'm gonna pick up a copy of the book because I'm always looking for books for my son.
Yes.
I'm curious, did you choose like rhyme style, or did you choose kind of just, I don't know, for lack of a better term, kind of regular book writing style for a children's book?
It was free flowing, because when the idea came up that there was going to be a song component to the book, it was just like, I don't need to beat them over the head with rhyming. You know, they have a completely different set from there. I want kids to actually read and enjoy the book and not just go through the, you know, the rudimentary like rhyming just to get them into the book. I want the story to stand on its own. I want kids to develop their own literary processes that go beyond just simply rhyming.
Yeah. I was just curious because you pick up a children's book, and sometimes it's, it's either rhyme or it's not. And I often wonder like what kind of tips the scale and why someone's gonna create a book that's a rhyming pattern versus a non-rhyming pattern text.
Yeah, and just coming from the world previously as a songwriter, I just cannot write in that state. I know a lot of children's books do rhyming, and they force rhymes, and it just doesn't sound right. And I just think, still true to me in my musicship, that I could not rhyme a children's book.
Right.
Where can people pick it up? Like, and by the way, the spelling of outer is not your normal. It's Oudder, right?
Yes. Yeah, spelled that differently, trademark purposes, just to go through this whole process of outer. There could be so many different nuance to AJ from Outer Space Town. Could be somebody like a pizza shop or something like that in the middle of Ohio. And I'm not going to get the trademark, but I know no one's spelling it like that. Right. That was also a lesson teaching them about why we went that way and spelled it like that.
So where do people grab it? Like, where's the most beneficial place for people to get it for you?
Everyone's on Amazon. So it is available on Amazon. You can download it on Kindle as an ebook version. You can get it at Target, all online platforms for the book. Just simply Google AJ from Outer Space Town, and it's going to bring up all of the platforms and mediums where you could buy the book from.
And if someone were to spell it outer space the correct way, would it still come up?
It still will come up. Yep.
Okay, cool.
Yep.
So let's talk. So you got 4, right? Let's kick it around just some of the other challenges you're probably facing as a father, or maybe joys, right? I hate to just focus on like the problems of fatherhood, not to scare off the.
Hey man, we're here to vent, man. We're here to vent. Let's just keep it real.
So you got 3 boys and you have your 9-month-old daughter, right?
Correct.
And so it was a long road for you to get your daughter finally, right? And so you guys are blessed to have her. How are you thinking about your role as a father now that you have a daughter versus the role you've been playing as a father to your boys?
I had to rewire because I always expected and anticipating having a girl first. And so my mindset, when we knew that we were going to have boys, had to shift because I'm like, I'm going to come in with this soft approach. I'm going to parent them a lot differently. So now that I've gotten the routine of being with 3 boys, it has to shift again to having a little girl. But my mentality of knowing that I was going to have a girl eventually one day, it's kind of kicking back in. It's kicking into gear. And a little girl brings a certain softness that you don't have to prepare for. It's always in you. I know most fathers could attest to it. When they have that little girl, there's just a switch that just goes on that they can't explain, and they're just able to parent them differently.
Yeah, we turn into straight punks.
Yeah. Manny wears the ballerina outfit.
No doubt. My daughter said, "Yo, put this ballerina off," and I'm like, "All right."
Yeah.
What's your affection level like with your boys?
Affection level with my boys, those are my guys. So with that, we have the greatest bond. Those are my little men. Those are my little me. So affection level is still great. Even though I wanted to have this little girl, I love them all the same. I love them equally because I got to learn, these little guys are going to gravitate towards all the things that I'm into. Like I'm a gamer. I'm into sports. They will sit down and they will game with me. We all link up. We jump on video games, Fortnite, and we play as teams on the video games. And even in those, I get to have moments where I can teach them lessons about leadership because we're playing a teamwork game. I can teach them things about, all right, follow your instincts. Let's go this way. So it's just the dopest bond that I never knew I would have with having boys.
Kay, were you asking more like on the intimacy side? Like, are you guys hugging it out and that kind of stuff?
Yeah, I mean that too. I'm just because I know we talked about the softer side when we talk about raising girls, but then it's also I think sometimes generally we neglect the need for the softer side for the boys when they're younger when we're raising them as well.
Yeah, the affection level is no different how I am with my boys. It's not that, I mean, we hug it out. I would kiss my guys. I give them a kiss on the cheek, kiss on the forehead and everything like that, because I'm not going to neglect them and think that you're like little pit bulls, go be hard, go out into the world.
Yeah.
And, you're supposed to be fighting. You're supposed to not cry. You're supposed to, all these rules that we are applying to young men, that these are the curses that we have to break, the curses I was raised with. So I approach them with just a soft, gentle side, but there is a firmness because I am raising men at the same time too. So just going back between that balance is new for, fathers everywhere.
Yeah, for sure.
Something that helped my wife and I, actually there's 2 books and they're from the same pair of authors, but there's one for like adults and there's one for kids. And it's called the 5 Love Languages. So the 5 love languages, adult version, and then there's for children. And that really helped us identify what our kids' love languages were. So what is it about? What do they prefer? Because you could be like, it could be physical touch. It could be kind action. It could be just being in the same room with each other. Like there's all these varieties. And it helped us hone in on what each of our kids' love languages are. And we saw like an immediate difference, both for my wife and I in our own, relationship, but also with our kids. And it was super helpful. So it's interesting how, again, like the stigma of you're raising boys, you gotta toughen them up. You gotta rough and tumble with them all the time. Like my son, he's a hugger. Like he loves to be hugged and cuddled with and that kind of thing. So that wouldn't have been normal, I think, for me to consider had I not really honed in on like, all right, it's not about me and what I think it is. What is it that he wants or needs? And let me adapt.
Yeah. That's important because especially individual, the different kids have different needs. So that's interesting, that book. I'd like to check that out as well.
Yeah.
Because even culturally, we kind of treat all boys the same, all girls the same. Normally society does that, but I think even culturally, depending where you're from, like you're even more like the macho. You got to be macho, and that's not fair to the individual kids.
Yeah. I never thought about applying the five love languages to the children, but that's a good concept because the kids are going to show you exactly who they are. You know, we're the ones sometimes trying to change them,
Yeah.
but they're coming into this world fresh off the box. They have their personality. You know, my two older boys, they're the more affectionate type. They want to hug, they want to feel love, they want your presence. They just want all of the things that, you know, typically dads would overlook from their boys. I even had my moments. I never was perfect with it. One of my 9-year-olds, Amari, he was into My Little Pony coming up, and I'm like, "Yo, why are you watching this, man?" And I had to catch myself of what I was getting
Yeah.
ready to perpetuate in those moments.
Right.
I've been there. And I did the same thing. I was like, nah, let the kid be like I have a 5-year-old. So my 5-year-old and my 8-year-old, I'm sorry, 5-year-old's a girl, 8-year-old's a boy. And the 5-year-old was like, come play with me. And she's playing with her dolls and all that stuff. And the first time I saw it, I was like, oh, let me just watch. And then I'm like, why am I thinking like that's I'm ruining the situation. Like there's no need for me to go any which way with what's happening other than they're enjoying their time together. And that's again the way I think most of us were probably raised that are on here right now would tell you that that's probably inappropriate. And that's the dumbest shit, you know, if you sit down and think about it, it's the dumbest, most ignorant shit you could probably think of in that moment.
Yeah, because I feel like a lot of times we look to confirm that our kids are going to be exactly who they're going to be at the end of the road. So when we see little things that are deviating from that, we're like, nah, let's stop that shit right now. And
Yeah.
I had to battle with that going through and just let them and be more of a manager to them instead of leading them to be who I want them to be. Show me who you are and we can manage your personality and we can go forward from there.
Yes.
It's fascinating because you know when you become a parent, I think you inherently feel like your kids are yours. Like you take ownership over your kids, right? And the reality is, and you said it perfectly now, it's like you're more of a guide than you are an owner of anyone, right? Like they're here, they're going to live their lives. You're just here to serve as guardrails for them to get to the optimal place where they can run on their own. And that's a mindset shift because I think you're like conditioning your kids to be like you or what your ideal is. And that's really not what it's about. It's about like, yo, like you said, they'll show you who they are. And it's up to us to understand that and then help them navigate accordingly.
And we're setting ourselves up for disappointment, them
Right.
and us, when we take that, because it's not going to be the situation that we want it to be. And then they're going to be disappointed because we're disappointed. It's going to cause friction. So,
Yep.
Big facts.
Going back to like the cultural side of things, it's funny. You're reminding me of my son. We hadn't cut his hair yet. He's a year and a half right now, and we hadn't given him his first haircut, and his hair was growing out. And my girl, she's half Native American, so for her, you know, hair is something like, you know, like growing it is culturally very important. And the men should have, you know, it's okay for them to have long hair. They should. And then when you cut it, it's like, I don't know, it's something special. So she was like iffy about cutting the hair. And then my family, the Cuban family, the women, they're like, you need to cut his hair so he could look like a little boy.
shit.
Yeah, you know,
Yeah.
like, you know, and then my mom's like talking shit, my aunt's talking shit. And you know, me, I don't care as much, but then at one point I'm like, yeah, we gotta cut his hair or something, right?
Yeah, you get pulled in both
No,
directions.
but I wasn't getting, I mean, I felt, this is me really the way I felt just on some appearance. I'm like, let's cut his hair. It's growing a little too long right now. But just for me, it wasn't about, you know, it looking a certain way for certain reasons, but I was like, let's just cut his hair. But my girl cut his hair because she said that she felt that pressure, which I told her that was whack. You shouldn't have felt that pressure. And then she regretted it immediately. And so I don't know. It's just it's not the same as what we're talking about, but you know, just those cultural things and what is, you know, what a little boy supposed to look like versus a little girl, and all of that. You know, it had me thinking a lot about all that stuff. And I'm like, well, we didn't do nothing to him mentally because he's too young to know. But are we gonna continue down this path where as he gets older and starts to realize, are we trying to mold him into like this macho cute, like the Cuban side is like he's got to be this macho Cuban kid, you know, boy, You know, where my girl might be, well, that's not macho in my culture. This is macho. Maybe long hair is macho for Native American culture, you know, so it's interesting stuff.
Yeah, my son's got long hair, and he's oftentimes people are like, "Oh, what a cute girl," you know, all that kind of stuff, and we ask him like, "Yo, does that bother you?" And he's like, "Nah, it doesn't bother me." And he knows now he'll check people like, "No, I'm actually a boy." You know, but sometimes we say like, "Yo, do you want to cut your hair?" And he does not want to cut his hair. He loves, he just that's his vibe. That's who he is, and he doesn't.
But he's in Santa Monica, so that skater surfer look is all right over there, you know.
Yeah, true. But I mean, the amount of people that will say to him like, think he's a girl. I mean, at some point, depending on how you're built or if you care or not, could shift whether or not it's acceptable where you live or whatever. You know, it could shift you, but he seems to be, in his own vibe. Yeah, so
that's dope. Before we get out of here, Derek, I have to ask: is kid number 5?
No,
something y'all think
about? No. Yeah, I got the girl. Like I said, the girl was it. We would have been done at 1 with a girl.
I don't know, because you could have had the girl, and you're like, damn, she's so dope. Maybe we need another one.
Nah. Yeah, we are officially done. We don't need a starting lineup for the Miami Heat. Yeah, we've capped out.
No, Manny wants to keep going till he's died. Like,
if we slip up and have a 4th, I wouldn't be mad.
See, culturally, you have to say all my Dominican friends are just like Manny. They all just want to keep going.
Keep running it up.
I still don't really have a reason for it. Like, some people might be like, yo, I need as many kids as possible, so when I'm old, somebody could take care of me. Like, it's not even on that. It's just
a numbers game.
Yeah. For me, it's just like, yo, I really
someone's gonna be rich.
Right.
So Derek, the book is called AJ from Outer Space.
Outer Space Land.
AJ from Outer Space Town, and Outer. Right. Yep. Outer, we spell it differently. OUDDER.
Yes. And where can people hit you up if they're interested in talking to you more or just vibing with you?
You can hit me up on all social media platforms. I'm most active on IG, so just hit me up at Derek's_Lane. That's DEREKS_LANE.
Dope.
Yeah, check him out. He's a dope content creator on there as well. So check him out.
Yeah, and also the theme song, AJ for AJ from Outer Space Town, Derek Lane, No Limit. It reached number 2 on iTunes. It was only beat by Baby Shark. So my kids have a joke now. Whenever I'm walking around the house, they'll randomly start playing Baby Shark because they know that's what beat us.
Nice.
That's dope.
Love it, bro.
You have to come back on, man.
Yeah, definitely, man.
Yeah.
Appreciate it. Thank you guys for having me on.
We're down to have a surprise episode anytime when you're like, oh shit, we having a 5th. Like, think of us.
Yeah. Like, don't wish that on me. Come on,
yo, man, he's out of control, man.
Yo, listen, you get to 4, then we'll probably talk about.
All right, that's fair. That might be the surprise episode. I'll be like, yo, Derek, come back, help me.
All right, cool.
All right, man.
All right,
peace,
fellas.
Man. Thank
Later.
you. Man.
Peace. Thanks.